everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at two books by Bartosz Zaskòrski. They're Postapoland and Weird Tales of Postapoland. So one is like a book of short stories that exists within the world that this has opened up that is apparently going to be continuing on. These books are from Hollow Press and are pretty well made. There's a little bit of like dot pattern on the lines, so it looked like they half-toned the lines, but it's all pretty crisp, and the art's like really intense and cool in these books. To be a little bit careful flipping through them. As you can see from the cover, there's some pretty grotesque genital imagery in here, but this gives you a good sense of what Bartosz can do in terms of just like pure imaginative drawing and his ability to manipulate form and things like that, especially to create these grotesque forms, is really off the chain. The story of Postapoland is that there's this like evil sun that takes over the world and causes everyone to mutate. So he's figured out how to create a story that allows for his what looks like automatic drawing to me. I'm reminded a lot of Austin Osman-Spare when I look at his stuff, and I guess that aspect of it is probably a little bit less impressive to me than it would be to a lot of people, because a lot of these images feel like what I do when I'm sketching, and so I know what that is, and it feels to me like I'm just kind of pulling off a little magic trick that looks more impressive than it is. I mean, stuff like this, it's obviously really impressive drawing, but it also has the feeling of like you can't really mess up because you just go and see what happens, and as long as you know how to make form, then you'll be fine. So there's a bit of that throughout, but then you get to pages like this, and it's like, obviously this has a huge perspective grid in it, and just the amount of labor that goes into it is absolutely nuts. I mean, this page is just chock full of detail and all kinds of cool stuff. Like this right here looks really cool. I could see that being actually a pretty easy drawing to make. These much less so. And then this thing is absolutely nuts here. There's a few images like this, but I don't want to spoil the whole book. The story, I would say, is pretty hard to follow, pretty loose and disjointed and pretty abstract. You're looking at a page like this, and you got this guy with the bug popping out of his head and this sea coral stuff and just some random mutants in a toilet and guys pushing like trash cans around some mutants having sex, it looks like. And, it just seems more of like snapshots of a world than an ongoing story. At this point, you do finally get some dialogue, and this story here with these characters has at the end like a to be continued. So apparently there's going to be a second volume of this, and I would definitely get it just for the art. Like I said, I really enjoy the art. It's just I kind of know what it is to draw forms like that, and I personally don't find it difficult. I find it almost too easy to do stuff like that. But when you start developing it into a whole scene, or you're doing it like in perspective like this, then it gets more impressive. The other thing that I find impressive is when I do something like that, it would be a little bit harder for me to like make up this character on the fly and then repeat it. And he's obviously able to pre-visualize enough to repeat this character in other perspectives and things like that. But images like this that are just a one-off, there's I don't know, that's just less impressive to me, because you just start making lines and it shows up. But the overall impression of the book is the really, really cool imagery and a bizarre story. Even things like this that like I totally understand how it's made. It still looks cool to me, and I think most people enjoy those type of forms. I also, unfortunately, I think that in the wake of the AI stuff, where the AI is operating kind of on similar principles of like, if you just pack enough like textural detail and suggestion of form, like people will just map that onto it and enjoy it. Unfortunately, I think this kind of art loses even a little bit more interest for me, because it confirms for me kind of the mechanical predictability of it, even though it seems loose and unpredictable. It's like that's the thing that the AI has the easiest time doing. So I feel bad for artists that work this way, and I myself am trying to actually quit working that way because of the AI. But again, I find these books really enjoyable to look at. Oops, I just spit on it in my excitement. Here, again, you get a really, really strong sense. Like this face here looks straight out of an Austin Osman Spare automatic drawing, and kind of the smoky, oozy forms going up. This feels like something that would come out of like my notebook when I was in college. So there's a real affinity for the history of this type of stuff, that I have a real affinity for the history of automatic drawing. I have all my students do it. So I really enjoy that. I would have liked to have seen it put into, I would like to see someone, I think Bhanu Pratap is the person who takes this kind of form distortion, but actually finds a way to put it into a more controlled narrative context. And I think that would have helped here. This is the second book with the shorter stories, I think, was more enjoyable for me. One of my favorite things running throughout these books is they're obviously about like existential despair and the grotesqueness of life. And right here you get this spastic movement of deformed bodies hails an immeasurable idiocy of being alive. And the outside is even more strange, idiotic, and terrible. And a lot of times, like especially on the roads here in Alabama, where people drive like nut jobs, I often like feel like that. But the artist keeps coming back and saying, but sometimes it's not so bad. Postapoland has really nice dogs that you can adopt and take care of. And this drawing here, but dogs. And there's many times throughout where he talks about don't buy dogs, adopt dogs, or I'll come to your house and chop you up. And so throughout the whole thing, there's this like really sweet, like, life sucks, but get a dog. Dogs will make your life happy. And that's often how I feel. I'm driving and I almost get run over 3 times by idiots. And then I come home and I have my 2 poop breath Labradors who I love anyways. One of them was a rescue, and one of them we did buy, and the one that we bought actually helped the rescue dog become more of a dog and less damaged. So, sorry, Bartosz, but maybe you're gonna have to come to my house and kill me. But we have one rescue dog and one bought dog, and they've both healthy influences on each other. The other thing I really like about this second book is he starts to play with material more. So here he's obviously taking on charcoal and or airbrush and really leaning into the H.R. Giger influence. Giger's another one of those ones that, everyone really gets off on. And to me, I find it a bit formulaic and predictable because I know it's just a buildup of random forms. And so again, it's taking that and just applying it to a full range of value and even color. But I quite like the play. And again, like this real awareness of the lineage that he's working within of automatic drawing and building up form and playing with form and cross contour and those kinds of things. Here, I think that play with form gets a lot more interesting because the types of forms and the compositions feel like something new to me, with all these negative spaces and the way they feel like, this thing here has, I know it's not, like, it doesn't look like it, but it almost feels like this thing is flipped, like we're seeing the other side. This story is also funny because as far as I can tell, it's about ghosts flirting with each other and then having sex. So this is like what ghost sex looks like, I guess. But these pages, I think, are my favorite out of the whole thing. It feels like it's adding something new to that lineage, whereas these earlier pages are very, very Giger, Beksinski, and then these are, very Moebius, Anki Bilal, that type of early heavy metal stuff. And then this one gets really weird with these distorted manga forms. I don't know that I like this style as much, but it's, again, really refreshing to see him playing and then morphs back into the H.R. Giger alien-looking stuff. This story I found interesting from just the formal construction of how it's presented. So it's less of a story, but it's still using comics and the sequentiality of comics to an effect. So it's like all these monsters coming in, and again you get this heavy Austin Osman Spare type of drawing, and they're coming into this gallery, and you have a list of everything that's in the gallery. And then here's some people coming and looking. And then on the next few pages, you just get a bunch of drawings, these airbrushings of the things that are in the gallery. And again, it's those more like Yves Tan Guy meets H.R. Giger type of forms, or Max Ernst makes H.R. Giger forms that I find really compelling. There's some Henry Moore sculpture in there or something. So I really do like that he's put there's this like small locale of artists that are kind of related to dark surrealism and automatic drawing and mysticism, and he's mixing them all up in a blender and getting a different result. And then again, you have here like a dog. He's got to throw a dog in there with a happy face in the middle of all the grotesqueries. And it says, when you listen to him carefully, what are these words coming from his double jaws? When you listen to him carefully, it sounds like adopt, don't shop, or I will beat the shit out of you. So to throw like that little bit of brightness and humor with these smiley faces in the middle of all this, I don't think that's something like Giger would ever do, right? He's so dark and gloomy. So that lifts the books up a little bit for me. So really enjoy it. You know, have some complex feelings about this kind of stuff, just probably because it's too close to what I do and it's too close to the thing I'm trying to get myself to stop doing. But I do think they're gorgeous books. They're beautifully made. The paper's this nice creamy paper. They're as you can see, it's pretty big. And I think they're great books, and I will keep getting all of the stuff that he does. I think pretty much everyone else will enjoy these even more than I do, just because you won't have that like that's a little too close to home, and especially a little too close to the home I'm trying to move away from that I've been describing throughout the video. I know most people just really love this type of thing, and if you can handle kind of the more grotesque genital aspects of it, then these books will be awesome for pretty much anyone who wants to get them. The other thing is you just have to kind of lean into that. They're surreal, abstract little stories, and it's more about the art and the fun of the art. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel, there's two ways to support us. The first one is through our Patreon. We have two different tiers of engagement there, support there. Some of them come with exclusive content, voting rights, stuff like that. And the money we get from that just helps us buy the books that we review, so we try and put that back into the community, and that just helps us promote other creators' work, so we really appreciate that. And then the best thing to do to support Living the Line is support what Sean's doing with Living the Line Publishing, so we'll go ahead and take a look at one of his projects now. House on Fire by Matt Battaglia is a just gorgeous book where Matt's kind of making an emotional response to the years of COVID and wrapping that into a sci-fi dystopian future that really the sci-fi dystopian's backgrounded, and you're focused on the emotional journey of two characters in a really beautiful way. And then that's enhanced by Matt's like really awesome, loose, kind of Paul Popish dry brush work. And then Sean and Matt have worked to get this second kind of orange spot color in there that's going to look really beautiful, and has allowed Matt to use his dry brush technique to add tone to the thing too. So with Sean's production technique, this is going to be a gorgeous book with a lot of heart. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.